Okay, so the title for today's session is this afternoon session is community of inquiry model, and because it is afternoon session, so please be a bit talkative or be a bit interactive. Otherwise, we both have a risk of getting caught by the sleep, huh? So actually, the idea of community of inquiry is not new. You may search its roots in the ideas of C.S. Pierce, John Dewey, and Jan Adams. These are the old school of thoughts and the people who believe that learning is possible only in social environment or interaction. So the whole idea of community of inquiry is to increase the interactivity and create a social cohesion among the learners, among the teacher and learners, so that learning can take place. So community of inquiry is basically a community in which learners inquire from each other as well as from teachers about various things. So it can be defined as any group of individuals that have commitment to address a shared issue, a problem or interest through a method similar to scientific investigation. So we generally believe, or the whole team or the people who follow the idea of community of inquiry, they believe that knowledge is produced by the community, not an individual. The Vygotsky social constructivism is the key theory behind it, along with the other theorists of constructivism. So this is a theory which is a constructivist theory, which is a social constructivist theory, and which believes that knowledge is being created, and knowledge is being created after the interaction among the community members. So it's kind of a group learning strategy. Community of inquiry, there is a theoretical framework of it, and which framework basically represents a process of creating a deep and meaningful learning experiences, collaborative and constructivist definitely, through the development of three interdependent elements, that is the social presence, cognitive presence, and teaching presence. In order to understand the whole community of inquiry model, you need to understand these three terms. What do you mean by social presence? What do you mean by cognitive presence? What do you mean by teaching presence? And how can we ensure all the three presence in a teaching learning environment, whether it is face to face, whether it is blended, whether it is open or online. Uh, this basically describes that learning takes place for a group of individual learners through educational experiences, which occurs at the intersection of social, cognitive, and teaching presence. So it is a social constructivist model, as I told you, and it is a model which basically explains the learning process in online and blended environments. This is the actual figure. This is the actual figure. So if you see, there are three intersecting holes. One is the social presence, another is the cognitive presence, and third one is the teaching presence. So social presence is basically the presence where the engagement with the learners or the participants is ensured. Cognitive presence is the engagement with the content, and teaching presence is the engagement with the goals and the directions. It is not the engagement with only teacher. So if you come to the intersections, you may get that there are supporting discourses, there are setting climates, and there are regulating learners. And along with this, we develop the educational experiences where, keeping in mind the educational context, the disciplinary standards, the communication medium, and the application. When we talk about discipline or disciplinary standards means certain norms which are associated with a particular discipline. There are certain disciplinary standards of a chemistry class, whereas the disciplinary standards may not be same for an art class, may not be same for a history or geography class, may not be same even for a mathematics class. So every discipline has its own standards. Keeping in mind to those standards, the teaching learning takes place. Then the educational context. in which context the education is being delivered. So the contextualization is the key deciding factor in almost all the frameworks, and COI also believe in that. Then the communication medium. Many times our whole planning, our whole designing, our whole effort goes in vain if we are not considering the medium of communication or the communication barriers or the possibilities available at the learners as well as at the teachers end. For example, you are teaching to the students who have come from Malayalam background and they have not studied Hindi nor studied English, but a teacher in a postgraduate or graduate classroom, forcing the teachers to adopt any one language, whether it is English or it is Hindi. In this situation, the communication medium become a barrier because many of the students who come for the graduation are coming from the state boards having the medium of communication or medium of even writing the answers at the state language, and suddenly if a state language is different from the central language, then this dilemma and this problem emerge. Then the application, along with the disciplinary standards and educational context as well as the communication medium, application of knowledge is also a key determinant for using the community of inquiry framework. That why are we using COI framework? What will be the applications of the knowledge generated through COI framework, and how students or the learners will utilize that knowledge in their day-to-day affairs. Let us talk about all three presences one by one. So what is social presence? If you read Garrison, the originator of the model, he wrote in his paper that the ability of participants to identify within the community, that is course of study, communicate purposely in a trusting environment and develop interpersonal relationship by way of projecting their individual personalities. It is the ability of the learner to project their personal characteristics into the community of inquiry, thereby presenting themselves as a real people, and the ability to perceive others in an online environment as a real. The whole problem is with the real. If I am delivering a lecture, you are listening to me, you are watching to me occasionally, you may consider me as a real person. But if you people are not interacting with me, if you people are not even questioning, even if you people are not giving any suggestions, any idea, then you people are not real in social presence because you are not participating as a social member of the society or the community. So social presence is very important for a course or for a program to be developed online, because when the social presence will be considered, all the method and media will emerge out of it. There are three dimensions of social presence: open communication, effective expression, and group cohesion. Open communication means that the learner and the teacher are having freedom to communicate with each other as and when requires. It's not like that they will send you an application, then you will ask them to wait for a week, then after a week you will respond to their questions. That is not the way of online teaching learning. In online teaching learning, the learner as well as the teacher or the tutor both need to remain active and both need to communicate with each other as and when required. Then effective expression. If communication has been established, then the expression of the chairman what I have I said last sentence, can you repeat please? Anyone can repeat my last sentence? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Anyone? I was talking about open communication. Am I right? So what I was talking, CG, you tell me what I was talking. You just unmute yourself and tell me.
Yes, sir. I think so. Open communication to interact with the others is in open mind.
Yeah, open mind. Correct. Because in online environment, the communication is very important. And online environment gives you the freedom sometimes which a learner may not feel in face-to-face situation. The social presence is essential for any success of any online program, whether it is a workshop, whether it is a lecture, whether it is a whole program or course or training program. If there is no communication, there is no learning. This is the thumb rule of any online teaching learning process. Then the affective expression. This is also very important dimension of social presence, because it is saying that if we are in online environment, the affection between the tutor and the learner should be reflected through the expressions. If the expressions are not effective, if they are not in a congenial environment, if they are not, facing the, if they are not uh, feeling the comfort with each other, then teaching learning may not take place. And the group cohesion, as the whole idea of community of inquiry is learning as a community, growing as a community. So the group cohesion is the key aspect of social presence, which everyone need to know and understand. And then comes the teaching presence. So teaching presence is basically the design, facilitation, and direction of cognitive and social processes for the purpose of realizing personally meaningful and educationally worthwhile learning outcomes. What does it mean? It means that the content, the delivery, the design, the direction of the learning, all should be meaningful and worthwhile. So if the meaningless education is being delivered, even if the lecture you are talking about something else and your session is about something else, it means you are not dealing effectively with the content. So the content should not be devalued and you should not deviate from the content when you are teaching in an online environment. That's why in the teaching presence, the three core components are instructional design and organization of the course, that how the program or the course is being organized. Then facilitation of the course, that how the course is being offered to the learners, and the direct instructions which are being delivered by the instructor to the teacher. Then comes the cognitive presence. Cognitive presence is basically to involve learners cognitively in the whole teaching learning process. I may ensure social presence by talking to you. I may ensure social presence by asking certain questions to you. I may ensure teaching presence by designing a very good curriculum or a very good program. But if I'm not involving you for reflection, if I'm not involving my learners to discourse, to discussion, and sustained reflection and discourse, then cognitive presence is not there. Cognitive presence means that the learners who are in the teaching learning environment should remain mentally and cognitively active. So the extent to which the participants of any particular configuration of a community of inquiry are able to construct meaning through sustained communication. So sustainability of the communication is the key, because the ultimate goal of the community of inquiry is to build a solid foundation of social presence and teaching presence to stimulate the cognitive presence in a course. Let us go for a concept map and I will try to explain you if it will open. Otherwise, I have downloaded it. I will open it there. I'm just waiting if it get open. Is it visible now, this concept map? Is the concept map visible, sir, madam?
Yes, sir, visible, visible.
Okay. But it is not readable.
No.
Don't worry, it will be readable also. It is actually a very big concept map, so that's why. Is it visible now?
Yes, sir.
Readable
Visible.
also?
Readable, sir.
So, this concept map was developed by Garrison and Anderson, and I have just used directly from there because I thought why I should create it again and again for you on a slide because it will be very congested. So, it is in PDF version and comes with CC BY license. So, anyone can use it with the citation or giving the credit. So that's why I'm saying it's not prepared by me. I'm just using it for the demonstration purpose. So what Garrison said that on the teaching presence, social presence, and cognitive presence, these are the three dimensions. As I told you, the social presence is the ability of the learner to project their personal characteristics into the community of inquiry, thereby presenting themselves as a real people. Because in online environment, it is very difficult to project yourself as a real and active individual. Then the cognitive presence. Cognitive presence is the extent to which the participants in any particular configuration of a community of inquiry are able to construct meaning through sustained communication. So the communication is the key here. Then the teaching presence is basically the design, facilitation, and direction of cognitive and social process for purpose of realizing personally meaningful and educational worthwhile learning outcomes. Now, let us see what comes in the teaching presence. Let me go to the downside. The teaching presence talks about instructional design, it talks about facilitating discourses, and it talks about direct instructions. What does it mean? When we are talking about instructional design, we should talk about the curriculum. What should be the curriculum? What will be the methods? What will be our targets? And how we will ensure the standards, the quality standards, right? And also we need to provide scaffolding or the support to the learners while learners are in the teaching learning process. So this is the teaching presence. The second dimension of the teaching presence is facilitating discourse. What comes under it? Defining and initiating the discussion topics, identifying the shared personal meanings and quality of the process. Similarly, what comes under direct instructions? It is focusing discussions, questions, direct feedback, injecting the new knowledge, and technical support. And there are two interactive options. One is the activity. So whenever you are planning an activity to ensure the teaching presence in your online environment, you need to design an activity which is based on the instructional design and it is also facilitating the teaching learning. Same is with the direct instruction, that whenever you are giving any direct instruction to any topic or any subject, it should not be only the direct instruction, but there should also be an opportunity where teacher should play a role of a facilitator and it can be shared with the students equally. Hope you got what I was trying to present here. Then let us move to the social presence. In the social presence, again, there are three dimensions: emotional expressions, group cohesion, and open communication. So what comes to the open communication? Open communication means the vocative, vocal, inclusion, and salutations. And also the safety. One cannot project one's real self and establish social presence unless he or she not feeling safe in online environment. If you are feeling any discomfort with me, if you are feeling any safety concerns with me, it doesn't matter how much I am motivating you, how much I am promoting you, how much I am requesting you, you will not be vocal with me, because somewhere in your mind, the safety concerns will be there. Safety doesn't mean that it is always a harm for a physical or mental safety. We are also need a social safety. We also need a psychological safety. Sometimes we fear that if we will go to an open environment, we may get exposed. And if we are having certain shortcomings and we have a fear of those shortcomings, we do not want to get exposed. That is the biggest problem, even in the online environment, that many students do not want to come in the public platform or do not want to remain open. So the open communication is having this challenge. Another challenge is the ownership of space. Who owns the space? It also very important. If it is a cloud space which is equally uh, shared by the learners as well as the teachers or the instructors, it's okay. But if you invite any learner in your own space, I'm not saying a space means in your room or in your classroom or at your home. Here, the space means the learning space, the platform, the timing, the duration. So, if the ownership of the space with the teacher, many learners may not feel very comfortable with that. Same is the style. A style means it connects to the development of an online identity to a real voice by using specific writing and presentation styles. So this is again a very important factor. Then comes the group cohesion. Under the group cohesion, there are few important things which you need to learn and which you need to understand. These are agreement. A cohesive group member should learn when to agree and how to agree. They should be complementing to each other for their progress and achievements. They should be asking from each other if they are facing any problem. They should be referring to each other if they are not having that desired skill, but the other member of the group is having. Quoting. They should quote others if it is not there. And continuing threads. And this connection should be continued. Then is the emotional expression. So in the emotional expression, there are three things. Emoticons. We generally don't use emoticons while teaching learning, but in online environment, emoticons play a very important role. How you can use emoticons? These days, emojis are very popular. So emoticons are the advanced version of emojis, you can say. Then using humor. Humor is very important because in online environment, many times the teaching learning is very boring, very boredom. So if you are not using any humor, if you are not trying to connect the learners, it will be difficult for them. And if you use humor appropriately, you and your learner can come on the same page and they feel more open with you. Self-disclosure. This is also very important. If you are not having something which is not yours, if you are not comfortable with something, if you are not having a particular skill, there is nothing wrong to accept it. There is nothing wrong to accept it. So that is the part of emotional expression. Then the third dimension, that is cognitive presence. The extent to which the participants in any particular configuration or in community of inquiry are able to construct meaning through the sustained communication. So four dimensions are there: triggering event, exploration, integration, and resolution. Let us first talk about triggering event. What do you mean by triggering event? Triggering event basically are the event or the activities through which you trigger the learner to respond. It can be a sense of puzzlement or it can be recognizing the problem. Both aspects can be there. But triggering cognition is very important. If your cognition is not triggered, you may feel and you may fall asleep, very deep sleep in a lecture like this. Because it is highly technical lecture and many times people are not comfortable with all these techniques and technological terminologies, then it is difficult for a people like me to keep you. So what I need to do, I need to do something triggering event, I need to do something. That's why I stopped in between and I asked questions to you, so that at least I can felt that your presence is there. Then collaborative environment is also a very good idea, in which the triggering idea can be introduced and explored through discussion within the group, and then it can be presented to all, or it can be replicated to the whole project. So after the triggering event, the second dimension is the exploration. Exploration of what? Exploration means divergent thinking, information exchange, suggestions, brainstorming, and conclusion. Means you need to explore the knowledge, you need to explore the facts. You means the learners need to explore the facts by using all these skills. So it is kind of a personal reflection as well as the social reflection. Why? Because whole community of inquiry framework works within the community framework. So you cannot imagine or anything you can decide that it's your own individual. Then comes the integration. Integration is basically the conversion of idea, connecting of the ideas, and creating the solutions. I think I did something. Yeah. So in integration, the conversion of the idea, the connecting ideas and solutions are created. Then comes the resolution. Resolution is basically a dimension where you apply the new ideas, you test the solutions, and you defend the solutions. So in this way, if you try to understand the community of inquiry model in detail, this is a very good tool. And if you want to understand it, I'm just putting its link in the chat box. The question I will respond. The question I will respond. I have shared the link of this PDF concept map, so you can go through it again and again, or you can have it with you if you are planning in future to use community of inquiry for online teaching learning. So the Garrison summarized the all three presences in a tabular form. That in social presence, we talk about communication, group cohesion, and collaboration. In cognitive presence, we talk about challenges or questioning, exploration of problems, and proposing solutions and resolutions. In teaching presence, we talk about instructor guidance, building understanding, and motivating. So how it can be done? A student can experience it by valuing the learning, by using the opportunity to express their views, and by encouraging the collaboration. Similarly, in the cognitive presence, the sense of puzzlement, information sharing, cognitive ideas, and applying new ideas, connecting ideas and applying new ideas through this cognitive presence can be ensured. And the teaching presence can be ensured by defining and initiating the discussion topics, by sharing personal meanings, and by focusing on the discussion. These are few indicators which we have already discussed in the PDF of the concept map, but here we are trying to present it once again. I would say that please spend 5 minutes to read this, and then we may go further. So please go through the table, because I have certain questions to you on the basis of this table. I'm giving you 2 minutes to go through the table, and then I will ask certain questions to all of you, and you need to respond. Otherwise, it will be again a very boring and one-way session. Okay. So have you gone through the terms and indicators? Should I ask my questions? Dear participants, are you ready? In the last 3 days, my question is that in the last 3 days, today is the third day, have you ever noticed, you need not to name the person, have you ever noticed with any resource person that while delivering their lecture, they use any triggering event? If yes, then which? If not, then what should be? Let's first answer the first question. Have they ever used any triggering event? Please respond. It is not like that I will tell everything. Should I stop sharing first? Yeah. So my first question was that in last 3 days, in any session, have you noticed any triggering event which has triggered you to ask a question, triggered you to note down something, triggered you to think about something?
Yes, sir.
Tell me what, when, and how.
Yesterday you gave some assignment, no, sir?
Okay.
So actually we thought about it. So I think it's a triggered moment.
No, triggering moment is not that. That's why I asked, because after discussion only we can clarify things.
Okay.
Assignment is not a triggering event, because assignment we are giving you at after the session, after the lecture, after the teaching learning is over. Triggering event is something which you use during your session or before your session, so that you can trigger the thought process and the communication among the learners. So that's why that is not a triggering event. I'm happy that you responded at least, so that your because if you will respond, your confusion will be clarified. Okay, so that is not a triggering event. That's why I am asking that, because it is a sense of puzzlement. We have not used any sense of puzzlement there. Do you think in the assignment there were any sense of puzzlement? No. The assignment was well explained to you. Every activity was clarified to you. So there was no sense of puzzlement there. Okay, let us have another question. Do you feel that in the last 3 days, any resource person has not given you opportunity for open communication? If yes, then how you utilize that opportunity? Again, my question on the social presence. Please respond, or this means that you have not understood this concept. Please respond. My goodness, no one is ready to respond. What I should do? Let me finish the session then. This will be a big problem for your organizers to continue such workshops in such an environment. Anyway, it's their problem.
The response is there in the chat box, sir.
So why you people are afraid of speaking? Why everyone is writing? Is it it has been, told by the organizers that you need not to talk, only need to put the message? By asking a question, one cannot make sure you're triggering. That's why I'm saying that you need to understand what triggering means.
Sir, just by asking a question, how can we assure that there is a triggering? See,
No, you cannot.
unless and until there is a readiness or comfort for the participants, as the author says, right? So Garrison himself maybe acknowledged that mere cognitive presence may not be enough to follow the community of inquiry.
Yes, agree to
Yes.
it.
So just by providing maybe a sense of even the sense of puzzlement were not there. See, unless and until
It is just an example. It is just an example.
That's what, sir. That's what I'm coming. So triggering event, I think most of the teacher educators feel that triggering the thinking, the triggering the cognition by presenting a scenario or a case. So just by asking, maybe yesterday you have just shown some of the videos, but you were just explaining, maybe if you have made us maybe into these what you call the breakout rooms and make us to discuss, I think there would have been some more triggering.
Yes,
So the
I agree to
triggering,
it.
I feel that most of the time, I think all these indicators, though these are examples, I think most of us are struggling in order to have this. For example, information exchange or applying new ideas. Even now you were experiencing when we ask the participants or the students, can you just talk? Can you just talk? Why are you just typing? Most of the time we are not getting the responses, and most of the time we have to waste the time for that. Even the risk-free expression or encouraging collaboration, the platform which we are using may not allow for encourage collaboration. So sometimes some of us are using Mentimeter or Jamboard in order to, or Padlet in order to collect their ideas. So
Yes,
the community of inquiry is excellent in its structure, but I feel the in all these levels are giving the challenges.
right. So, what Viju was saying, your name is Biju now, am I right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So what he was saying, he was basically, hinting towards the actual problems of teaching learning in the online environment. And that's why we need to understand such frameworks quite rigorously. And that's why I said in the starting that we cannot, become an expert only by listening about a framework or just doing one assignment on that. We need to plan accordingly, activity by activity, session by session, concept by concept, that what should be the triggering event, how we can trigger, how we can give an opportunity of the information exchange, how we can give the opportunity of the new ideas, where you cannot put everything at one place. You may, in your whole lesson, you may put triggering event at one place, then applying the new idea at another place, and the connecting ideas also.
Sir,
So the
excuse me, maybe
yes,
maybe I'll add one more concern. As you were explaining now, these elements where what you are talking about, the cognitive presence, social presence, and teaching presence, is it only applicable for a live session like live video conferencing?
no, it is applicable equally in a Swayam course. It is applicable equally in the blended learning also. So it's not only for live.
But sir, then can you just explain us maybe in an asynchronous mode? In an asynchronous mode, how maybe these indicators work well?
Yeah, let me explain you. Let me explain. For example, I am planning a course, though I'm coming on that in the coming slide, but let me explain it here only first. What happened? Yeah. So, if I am planning a course, let me take the example of my own course, which I am right now planning. That is the course on plagiarism and ethics, which I have started. So, when I offered my course, the first thing which I shared with my learners was not what is plagiarism. I shared with them a letter which was written by 7 professors of physics, including 4 Nobel laureates from University of Stanford, to the then President of India, late Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. What I did when the first screen of my course is that letter. I'm not talking about the definition of plagiarism and all that. Why I put that letter? Because when a learner or a viewer will read that letter, they will get sensitized that how a shameful situation was that for Indian academia when 7 people from Stanford University wrote a letter to then president of the country that your one of the vice chancellor has plagiarized our paper. From there I draw that why plagiarism is so important for us to know, because then I gave them an activity. In the activity what I did, I shared at least 10 or 20 newspaper clips about different plagiarism cases, and I asked them to call out what they understand from it. So in that way, and there is no live session. I'm talking about a Swayam course or I'm talking about an online course. So the letter which I used in my first module, the first thing is that letter. That is a triggering event. And that is actually a triggering event for me also as an educator. When I start planning a course on plagiarism, the letter was in my mind since years. Similarly, now what I can do, I can, as you suggested, that we can distribute the students or the participants into different groups. Here comes the role of the social presence. For example, if I'm discussing again about the same concept, that is the plagiarism, I'm just taking that as an example. You can take example from your own discipline. So if I'm talking about the plagiarism, people need to express risk-free. Otherwise, they will remain confused, and that is possible only through open communication. So for open communication, what I did, I organized an open session, and I have to organize. In the past course, I have already organized, which I have offered on Canvas. Now I'm transporting that on Swayam. So there I will organize 1 hour session only to discuss what is your understanding about plagiarism. There nothing will be taught to them. There will be no content to be presented by the uh, instructor. It will be only the communication about the concept among the participants and the peers. So there they can discuss, share, express. So that was the risk. That will be the risk-free expression opportunity where they will all connect with each other. They will all share their ideas. They will all appreciate each other's ideas. So that will be the social presence. Now comes to the teaching presence. So when I introduce the teaching presence in the first module, I'm talking about the first module, then I need to introduce the concept in a sequential manner, that how plagiarism has started, what are the common forms of plagiarism, and if they have, then there can be an activity box where they can share any event of which is in their knowledge or which has happened in their institution or in their uh, learning community where they have understood that this is plagiarism. And on the basis of that, we can have a discussion or the discussion forum. So, all the components of online teaching learning, whether it is face-to-face component, whether it is asynchronous component, whether it is synchronous component, everything should be organized in such a sequence, but this doesn't mean that every component should be at every place. There should be a meaningful and logical sequencing of the content and event, keeping in mind all the 3 presences. Only then teaching learning can be successful. That I want to say. Let us see how we can use community of inquiry for designing and developing the blended or online learning course. For example, for the teaching presence, what we need to do? We need to facilitate students' learning activity. We need to provide them timely and supportive feedback. This is very important. In most of the courses, when I was not the part of the Swayam, when I was not offering the Swayam, I got an opportunity to, evaluate the ARPIT courses, some of the ARPIT courses with the team. So in that, I observed that many people who are offering the courses never responded to any discussion forum question or any problem raised by the learner in online environment. If it is so, it means the teaching presence is completely missing. So the timely support and timely feedback to the students is essential, and which is possible in asynchronous mode. You need not to remain online whole day. You may decide that, okay, I will sit 1 hour daily on my system and I will respond to all the queries of my students. That will be enough for you. So teaching presence can be ensured in this way. So you need to provide the explicit and redundant instructions for all the courses, all the course activities. Then we can do the social presence. How? A social presence means that a learner should feel your presence throughout the course. Even if my course is to be going offered on 1st January and admission has started on 1st December, this 1 month is very crucial for me. If I will not communicate with my learners frequently in this 1 month, at least 90% of my learners will drop out from my course. So for that, why I need to do? There are options like announcements. There are options like email, short videos. So what I have to do? I have to do something in every 3, 4, 5 days on my platform. One, I can send a welcome mail whenever someone is joining my course. Then I may send them that what the course is, what we are planning. Then after some days, I can share a forum where they can introduce to each other. Then I can prepare some pre-course survey type thing, which I can ask them to fill before the course, so that even during this whole month of the announcement of my course, they remain engaged and they feel that yes, their instructor is present there, because they are not watching the instructors. In face-to-face instruction, instructor is in front of them. But in online environment, they never know who is my instructor except his face is there in a photograph or in the biodata they read about him or her. So it is the responsibility of the teacher to ensure the social presence. You can offer the virtual office hours for the students, like you can fix a 1 hour or 2 hour in a day or in a week where students can come, they can ask the questions you directly, you can address them. And those questions may not be related to the course and may be related to the course. You can create some weekly check-in videos, announcements to recap the summary and everything. So all these things, why we do? Because we want to ensure the social presence of the tutor and learner in the teaching learning environment. You can develop some course activities like icebreakers to encourage the development of the trust. You can model and encourage use of verbal immediacy behavior like self-disclosure, share values, use salutations, self-reference, for examples, acknowledgements, approvals. Your activity should be there. If there is no activity, there is no social presence. So you also need to encourage students to share their anecdotes, their experiences, their beliefs during the online discussion. This also ensures that social presence is there. You can design certain collaborative activities, some problem solving tasks, some projects, some group discussions where you can ensure the social presence. Then how will you ensure the cognitive presence? You need to identify the big ideas which you want that students to take away from your course and develop major course activities around the assessment of those activities. You need to provide frequent opportunities for testing and feedback. And you can use the self-testing, the practice assignment, the simulations, and many other interactive activities to support the skill development and convergent thinking. Because for cognitive development, it is essential that whatever they are learning, they need to reflect on that. So the reflective things are essential in cognitive development, cognitive presence. You need to provide multiple representations of the knowledge which you want that students to learn, and multiple activities to practice their desired skills. By multiple activities, because your learners are not same and your learners are not in a small number. In an online environment, if you are offering a good successful course, the definition of a successful course is that at least you are having 1,000 learners. If you are not having 1,000 learner, why are you investing lakhs of the rupees of public money if you are not benefiting even 1,000 students? So How you can do that? You can encourage experimentation there. You can encourage them for divergent thinking. You can have some online discussion, some open-ended questions. You can even encourage the diverse point of view. Only then you can ensure the cognitive presence. So this doesn't mean that you need to ensure the cognitive and social and teaching presence only in face-to-face interaction. When we are talking about these three presences, we are talking about the whole teaching learning environment in online situation, where the components can be face-to-face, components can be online, components can be offline downloadable. Many components can be there, which we want to ensure. Okay. So what I did, there is a very famous survey of community of inquiry, which I have taken from them, their website. And I just want, it is not a survey of this course or program, but I want you to fill it so that you understand that how the community of inquiry can be ensured in a course. Though it is a post-course survey, so it has no meaning right now. But if you go through the questions of this survey, it will be quite helpful for you. So I'm just opening the survey, and I will share its link also. In the chat box.